What's up, y'all? So it's either the end of January or the beginning of February, and considering some people seem to like my 60 album review at the end of 2022, I thought I may as well lean into that and talk about the albums that I've been listening to in January. So we've got a lot of new releases, we have some December drops that I didn't get to review in my last video, as well as rediscovering and re-listening to some old classics. Hopefully I can do this kind of video month to month. I would love to do a monthly recap for everybody, but no promises. I am as busy as an MFB, you know what I'm saying? So let's get it started. We are gonna go from my least favorites that I listened to this month to my mostest favorites that I listened to this month, starting off with We All Need a Bit of Love. Yeah, this new Lukas Graham album kinda blows. He honestly should have titled it the Raspberry album because it fucking... This might not be the worst thing out there, but it's derivative enough to make me want to erase every top 10 pop song that was written by a white man in the past decade. This feels like an album from the perspective of someone whose biggest hardship in life is being a Where's My Hug guy. If Where's My Hug was a musical genre, it's this. Lukas, please leave Ed Sheeran and Shawn Mendes alone. We only have so much space for overproduced, mediocre white boys on the radio. Please, dude, you have to stop. Yeah, there's not much to say other than it's obnoxiously overproduced. There shouldn't be any trap beats on this project, like none at all. The song Share That Love has some real iconic, you know, step clap beat carried on by a Home Depot style whoa, whoa, whoa. The song Say Forever has a real T-Mobile ad type beat, which is almost funny until you realize that he's been taking himself seriously this whole time. Like, this is the best he's got. His vocals are just so high and abrasive. He just took a note straight out of Adam Levine's book and proceeds to scare the shit out of me whenever he just, you know, starts singing. Up above the clouds, you know the sun's still shining. Fucking Jesus. It's a musical jump scare where the artist scaring you is the fourth and the blandest Wilson brother. Really not a fan of this. The 2010s want their sound back, Lukas. We've already been 3 years into the 20s. You can't keep this shit up forever. The only thing I think of real note on here is when G-Eazy used the word blurp as an ad-lib. That was pretty notable. My only thought after the opening track of this was, oh god, you're telling me I have to listen to an hour and 13 minutes of this? This album almost feels like a parody of the punk trap rap that he helped cultivate. Granted, I'm not well versed in Trippie Red. I do like a few of his songs, but there are times listening to this that I really do wonder, does he think this goes hard? Because I mean it does, like, sometimes, very sometimes. More so though, I'm left with these baffling moments that are almost funny in retrospect. Let me list them for you now. In Dark Brotherhood, he says, we keep it litty like a titty. Really, do you? You sound like an obnoxious 20-something-year-old white girl. Oh yeah, like half of your fan base. We got the chorus of Fully Loaded. 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 Free Rio? Why did he sample a sneeze? Again, did he think this sounded good? In the song Die Die, he says, you can try or fucking die. Got him. There's no fucking way that he started and ended a song titled Biggest Bird with a stock eagle sound effect. There's just no fucking way. What's up, caution in here? Last one. The song Toilet Water is actually titled Toilet Water because it sounds like toilet water. That's not a roast. They actually sampled toilet water.
Flesh, okay, flesh, flesh.
Production-wise, I like to imagine the conversation between him and his audio mixer went a little something like this. So do you want me to balance the sound at all? No, blow it out. Blow it out? Like how much blown out? Like blow the whole thing out with bass. I want the audio meter to constantly be in red. Except for one Travis Scott verse where we're essentially going to erase the instrumental and it's gonna sound like shit. Trippie, are you sure we wanna... Hey, the more blown out the bass is, the harder it bangs, right? Okay, sure, I guess. This is grating, straight up just really exhausting to listen to the whole thing. Simply no reason any of these songs needs to be longer than 4 minutes, let alone 3. Not that there aren't occasional moments that I enjoy. I kind of like the Nardo Wick feature, and I think his song with Juice WRLD is a rare moment on the album that I think the emo trap sound actually pays off. Rest in peace to Juice WRLD, of course. But yeah, this is not a good album. It seems like he wants to present as this rageful, intense, very metal character, but he can't decide between that and just using these mediocre Apple loop type beats. It's like he downloaded a Trippie red beat package on GarageBand. He definitely wants his own whole lot of red type moment, but instead we get a whole lot of fucking boring, man.
I'm a professional odds beater, never a gambling man, balling around.
I'd never listened to Kota before, but he lives up to the name. This mixtape is very friendly. It's incredibly short though, just over 16 minutes in length, so while he seems to actually have a lot to say about maintaining peace with the people around him, cultivating a prosperous lifestyle, enjoying the luxuries that music can sometimes afford, and some legit critiques about the age of the internet, all of this is like very, very fleeting. Most tracks don't break the 2-minute mark, which is just enough for him to get an interesting idea into the door. And then, oh wait, oh, is that a fade? That's a fade out. Yeah, that's a fade out. Kind of feels like I'm getting blueballed by an early J. Cole project. Take that as you will. I do think his flow is clean. He definitely knows what he's doing with words. There's a lot of really great phrased bars across this thing that catch my ear.
Really the GOAT poet, the coast floating, never show boating in Florida, I'm for show boating.
Production is chill. It's very stripped back. It's very jazzy and smooth. It complements his voice really well. It makes me want to check out some of his other stuff because ultimately, I'm not really crazy about this, but it's clear he's got a lot of talent and he's got a lot of drive and he has a lot to say, which all by itself is very commendable. The king of the cigarette is back, baby, with a very woozy, wavy, and instrumental album. Gone are the days of his John Lennon-esque vocals where he apologizes to his mom for sticking drumsticks up his ass, and in are the days of the most mellow shit imaginable. It's not crazy, it's not taking me by storm. From what I remember of his last album, it has a lot of similar threads. He seems to be really slowing his sound down, creating a lo-fi atmosphere that probably pairs really well with a cloudy day, some toast, cup of coffee, a nice biscotti, if you will. It's all really chill guitar melodies with a signature synthesizer twang layered on top of it. While definitely not as exciting or interesting as really any of his previous work, I guess there's a place for it. Definitely really missing his charming vocal lead. I think lyrically he's always had a lot of sweetness that made me a fan of his back in 2017. Honestly, without that, there really isn't a whole lot to sink your teeth into. Still, it's nice. I'd put this on while I patiently make myself a pour over, like some kind of indie asshole. This album feels like an ode to lazy mornings, and I'm not really sure if that's actually a good thing or not.
What the fuck is 101? We all on going jumping in. Who the fuck she talk?
It's a little bit hard to listen to this and not think of Megan Thee Stallion. If there's one complaint I'd have, it's that it's really not breaking the mold at all, but I had a lot of fun listening to this. I think her hooks across the album were really biting and exciting to follow along with. She manages to make a chorus utilizing eeny, meeny, miny, mo, and it doesn't sound corny. Now that that's a triumph. And seriously, when she gets into her rhythm, she just goes. No breaks, gassed up, stinky as hell.
You know I'm without a shit, the hoe was done for trying me. Bitches always sipping tea, I dot your apple crossing me.
I think there could be a little more ebb and flow in terms of energy from track to track. Her flow really maintains a consistent intensity throughout, which could feel stale, but I think she applies it graciously to some more R&B style tracks, some ass twerking bangers, and some 90s infused throwback bops. It isn't a long record, so it manages to be pretty entertaining without overstaying its welcome. I like this, and I would love to see her carve her own direction a little bit more on future works. As of now, I'm invested in the Gloss Up hype train. I happened upon this one on Twitter the other day. I poked into the comments of, I think it was a JPEG Mafia tweet, and someone plugged this, and I thought, why not? And I'm glad I did. This was a really lovely demonstration of some really laid-back sound wave. I've recently gotten more interested in the sound wave soundscape genre after listening to and loving Death's Dynamic Shroud, and also after revisiting The Art of Noise, which is a really cool group that I listened to growing up and I highly recommend, and maybe I'll talk about it some other time. While not a viscerally mind-blowing experience, it did impress me to have found this in a Twitter comment, considering how luscious and airy yet crisp this album feels. It's reminiscent of C418 of Minecraft fame, very emblematic of 80s synth pop and groove, very much Kyle Smith and Michael Stein of Stranger Things. It's got a lot of funk, jazz, deep resonating soul to it. Definitely going to be revisiting this one, and for all my production and synth nerds out there, this is a really nice time. And if you're someone who puts on Subwoofer Lullaby to study to, this album is a freaking must.
When it calls lit, better call in. She done popped all out.
I'd only heard snippets of this when it dropped, and at the time I wasn't all that interested, but then I sat down in my car, bumped the bass a little bit, and
Drinking dope turned me to a superhero. Ain't having problems, I'm sipping the bar. Shout out to Dallas, my bitch is a star.
yeah, this album slaps. Metro Boomin might have perfected at least some aspects of the spacey, ethereal quality of trap hip-hop. Granted, there are areas that I think could be a little bit bolder, could be a little bit more out there, but I've been putting this on every day for the past week, and my god, it just gets better every freaking listen. The features are perfectly placed. Maybe we want to check out Young Thug's catalog. It reestablished why The Weeknd is just so good at his thing. Hi there, just jumping in real quick to say that the first time that I listened to Creepin', I was like, that's interesting, that sounds really familiar. And then I actually looked up the song that it was interpolating, and my love for it increased even more. I think it's an incredible interpolation of the original cut, and I love the track.
I don't wanna know if you play.
Reaffirmed my love of Don Toliver. It made me thirsty for more A$AP Rocky. It reminded me that Metro Boomin and 21 Savage are an unstoppable duo. 2023 is the year that I become a 21 Savage fan. I'm not sorry about that, because when he's good, his delivery is just understated and cool, with Metro really booming behind him. There's just nothing else like it. I also want to jump in here and say rest in peace to Takeoff. I was not super familiar with his work, but I definitely think that his song on here at the tail end of the album with A$AP Rocky is a definite highlight on the album for me. I think it's a really punchy, really poppy, really fun way to round out the album, and one of my faves off of it. I do kind of wish the Travis tracks went a little bit further in their scope. They felt pretty lackluster in relation to the rest of the album, but again, great features, great collaborations across it. It's vibey goodness that makes me feel like I'm living in Blade Runner, but glossed up with hip-hop jewelry for some reason. It bops. It just freaking bops.
Be very specific when you talk on who the best is. How can I address this?
Little Simz ended 2022 with a surprise drop, and sure, it's no, sometimes I might be introvert, but it's still pretty incredible. This feels almost like an epilogue to the suave jazziness of Introvert, while still being as riveting, as fun, as bombastic and intense. Across this, she talks a lot about how the music industry will just chew you up and spit you out without so much as a penny, while still using your art and your image for its own personal benefit. It's the thanklessness of being a musical artist in a world that seemingly loves hip-hop music just for it to ultimately discard you and write off your success as a trend. She's spitting really hard on this, potentially even more confident than before. Some of her best work can definitely be found here, as well as her more than grandiose production style. I feel like I'm getting swept up in an orchestral epic on some of these songs. It's just beautiful. She makes multiple 7-minute tracks that don't feel like a chore. I can put this album on and it seemingly breezes by with just how seamless her flows and her beats perfectly coincide with each other. I will say maybe one of my least favorite Little Simz songs is on this album. I'm not quite sure what she was trying to do with her heavy and occasionally flat auto-tuning on the song Who Even Cares. Still, her musical offerings always stand above and beyond so much of what's being released today. She's one of the most underrated rappers working today, in my opinion, and I just hope she keeps up the incredible work. Love this project. So maybe it isn't as compact or succinct of an album as Control, sure, but damn, oh damn, she is an R&B queen. A tour de force, if you will. And this has some of her catchiest, her poppiest, her most unabashedly fun material, as well as some incredibly thoughtful and pulled back moments like her collaboration with Phoebe Bridgers, which I couldn't have anticipated what it would sound like. And yeah, it's the perfect blend of the two artists and one of my favorite songs in the project. Low is a sexy banger with some incredible production from Travis Scott. Kill Bill is a delightfully unhinged song. Gone Girl is a wonderful piece of soul, really exemplifies the power of her voice. Which reminds me, her vocal ability on this is just insane. Like, you already knew that if you've heard literally any of her music, but it just establishes that yet again and even stronger than before. She just sounds a lot more open and a lot more willing to explore on this album. It's sexier than her last, it's grungier than her last, with a straight up pop rock anthem that goes hard. Get around, I don't like shit you fall. Get a kick out of missing your goal. Now hate me enough for the two of us. And all of the things that we've loved about SZA before, namely the gorgeous waves of her voice and her sultry poppy production style, they're all brought to light and built upon beautifully. Hats off to SZA. I might not be in love with this album quite yet, but I do love quite a lot of it, and I think that my opinion is likely to change and just increase the more that I listen to it. As I said, I love Death's Dynamic Shroud. I really felt head over heels for last year's Dark Life, and while its predecessor isn't quite as vibrant or shaking or mind-meltingly amazing, it's still a stunning piece of music. Some of the craziest sampling I have ever heard of Dua Lipa, Taylor Swift, Olivia Rodrigo, as DDS takes snippets of their vocals and transforms them into these skipping, popping, psychedelic synthetic trips. It's fucking insane. I feel the same way about this kind of music as 13-year-old me felt about dubstep the first time I'd heard it. There's really nothing like it, to the point where it's almost indescribable. Moments like Just to Be Needed call to mind M83. If M83 was dropping acid, the transformation that happens halfway through the song is just so beautifully crafted, it makes me want to freaking cry. It feels like a symphonic hug from the universe that I very much needed and I very much appreciated. And R.I.P. is such a wonderful send-off track. It's this glitchy lullaby with sonic waves that wash over you like a digital blanket. It's truly magical, and all I'm gonna say is that you kind of got to listen to it for yourself just to get your own experience with it. I had first heard these albums last year, and I am just sad that it took me that long to discover these. This feels like the opposite of SoundCloud rap that glorifies drinking cough syrup and opiates, as this instead confronts the real dark side of drug use and is actually good. Both of these albums examine a similar framework, Triple X more so focused on the thrill of living life on the edge, while Atrocity Exhibition details the kind of nightmare that ensues when you are so wrapped up in mental anguish and addiction that you can only manage to watch the world blur by in distress. Not only do his lyrics discuss the destructive nature of addiction and the stress of preserving a stable life, but his production does a lot to get the feeling across as well. Triple X, or 30, features an array of twisted, grimy, and really out-of-pocket beats. His lyrics are abrasive, sometimes they are incredibly foul, but fucking hilarious as well.
I'm a motherfucking motherfucker, fucking on your mother with 2 rubbers, I do fucker.
It's groovy, it's kooky, it's raw as hell, it's weird. Atrocity Exhibition, however, is friggin' crazy. The beats are very experimental, yet their drive and unhinged nature is insanely captivating. As the first track on here implies, this album is a downward spiral. The energy gets progressively darker, scarier, more nail-biting as it rises in tension. Any of the glamour to be found on Triple X is entirely stripped away, and what you're left with is this steady deterioration of an unstable mind. It really paints an indescribably dark environment that I really have a hard time describing. I think it really bridges the gap between underground grunge rap and the more outwardly experimental. I cannot wait for his collab with JPEG Mafia later this year. That's probably gonna be the best album of the year. I'm just saying that right now. It's probably gonna be the best album of the year, and I'm gonna put money on that. And finally, the best thing I listened to all month was
Do not stand still, boast your skills close, but no krills, post for polils, post no bills.
I began 2023, literally the first thing I listened to after the clock had struck midnight, by finally listening to Madvillainy all the way through. And yeah, it is good. Maybe perfect, in fact. Definitely as incredible as everyone had said it was. I don't know what to say about MF Doom that hasn't already been said, so all I can do is reiterate that he really is one of the best rappers to ever be handed a mic. His fun and effortless, free-flowing bars are endlessly engaging and entertaining. I might not have been hooked after the first listen, but he's an artist that I don't know if you'll fully enjoy the craft of his work unless you're paying attention to his flows and his wordplay. But even then, this is a great album to throw on for a really laid back and complex and interesting vibe. I think Madlib's beats are captivating. They twist and turn. They are chopped and flipped. They are double dipped and chipped, clipped, Robert fripped. Anyways, yeah, Doom will probably always be the king of underground rap, and while I am not as well versed with Madlib's discography, this album is so gritty and engaging. Its cartoony, villainous veneer just makes me want to check out everything else that this man has made. I'm gonna jump on here again and say rest in peace to MF Doom. Way too many young hip-hop legends have passed away in the last few years. It's just really fucked up, man. If you like rap, you've probably already listened to this one. And if you haven't, then what are you doing? Don't be like me. Don't put this off. If you aren't sold by the second or the third listen, then I don't know, I guess you're just wrong then. I guess. But do listen to it. It is just as good as everybody says it is. And that's all I have to say about that. Well, y'all, that's it for January. Thank you for watching. Always appreciate the support. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe if you like this content. And if you don't, like, share, and subscribe anyway. What the fuck? Until next time, have a good night and happy listening. Bye-bye.